We've always had a fascination with aliens and close encounters of the third kind. All throughout history, civilizations seem to have looked to the stars, and all of them have stories that talk about otherworldly beings descending from the heavens. While up-close and personal run-ins are rare, with most sightings reported turning out to be fake, some do have a lot of evidence to support them, even leading some enormous skeptics to give pause and reconsider. We've picked a few modern sightings to help spread the word, with 5 real encounters people have had with extraterrestrials. Let's begin. Number 5. Security Officer, South Dakota. A man in South Dakota who worked as a Sioux Tribe security officer was in his car on his way home from work when suddenly, somewhere along Highway 63, his car was surrounded by red orbs the size of softballs. These orbs spun constantly around the car for another few miles as he continued to drive. He said at the time he thought the entire thing was pretty neat and had no negative feelings associated with the experience. The orbs were fairly close, but he said they never seemed to get within 2 car lengths of his vehicle and didn't obstruct his path at all. At a certain point, he noticed that the car was visibly slowing down. Checking the speedometer, he noticed that he had unexplainably slowed from 60 miles per hour down to only 40. After continuing like this for a little ways, the lights suddenly and mysteriously vanished. At this point, the car sped back up and re-established its speed of 60. This mystery encounter didn't end there, however. Further down the road, he felt a strange sensation and was suddenly very uneasy. He said that chills went up his spine moments before he saw a figure standing motionless at the side of the road. Without warning, a slender, human-like creature standing about 4 feet tall leapt onto the hood of his car and reached through the glass windscreen and touched his head. As it ran a hand down his back, he said it got very hot. This is when he saw a squat, wide, and very ugly creature stood on the other side of the road. It vanished almost immediately, but the alien on his hood remained. After a time, he could no longer see it, but said that he felt its presence. This persisted until he reached a more inhabited area closer to home. His wife immediately knew something was wrong and believed him immediately when he recounted his tale. He was visibly agitated and hot to the touch, although there were no other symptoms. Upon further inspection, he found that his car had almost used twice as much gas as it normally did during the same daily drive. The 90-minute drive also took 3 full hours to complete, even though, to his knowledge, he never once altered his course. An alien encounter is one thing, but losing time like that would send us over the edge. Many have claimed that the ET in the car had probably protected him from harm, stating that his experience, assuming it's genuine, could have turned out much worse. Number 4. Weather Balloon Hitchhikers. Professor Milton Wainwright of the University of Sheffield made a startling discovery back in 2013. They have just released a paper that covers their findings and hypothesis in the Journal of Cosmology. In 2013, Professor Wainwright released a specialized weather balloon into the stratosphere to collect a number of different measurements. What they discovered after the balloon descended was startling, to say the least. In order to collect untarnished samples, the balloon had sterile studs that were designed to only open up after the balloon had reached the stratosphere. They then retracted during the balloon's slow descent back to Earth in order to properly store the material that they had collected. Upon examination of the collected material, Wainwright and his team found that they were absolutely covered in biomorphs, which were organisms completely unknown to science and seemingly not from this planet at all. The strange organisms looked like nothing anyone had ever seen before, and it's still up for debate how they managed to make it into our atmosphere, especially at those altitudes. Scientists have looked into many different theories that attempt to prove where these organisms came from. Many thought that they had to have come from Earth, but all theories suggesting that these are from our own planet have been disproven. One suggested that volcanic activity might be to blame, but even the most powerful volcanic blast in the past decade wouldn't have contained enough energy to blast material that high. Furthermore, even if one had been capable of such an eruption, the material wouldn't have remained at that level for such a long time. Wainwright's paper proposes that life is constantly being showered down on our atmosphere from space, most likely dropped by passing meteors or asteroids that are slowly shedding their former inhabitants. Passing by Earth, it is suspected that they rain these organisms down constantly, although most don't survive the descent. The team is still conducting extensive and exhaustive research to support their claims. They say that the work is tough, but are confident that they may be looking at the first scientifically accepted ET encounter. Whatever their findings, we're eager to see what they manage to uncover. Number 3. Baron Davis, Nevada encounter. Former NBA star Baron Davis recently recounted his very own encounter with an ET when he was driving home to LA from Las Vegas. He was around the Barstow area when the encounter occurred. If you've ever seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or read Hunter Thompson's book, which was the inspiration for the movie, you're no doubt aware that this is the same stretch of road he was driving along when suddenly and inexplicably swarmed by enormous bats. While we're sure that Mr. Davis wasn't under the influence of any of Mr. Thompson's various narcotics of choice, the area is basically nothing but searing hot desert for countless miles. Hallucinations are not uncommon, especially during a long trip, although we're not discounting his story just yet. We have to remember that this is a man who is still in peak physical condition. Most travelers who succumb to the heat are nowhere near his level physically, which explains their susceptibility for seeing things that aren't necessarily there. He claims to have seen this bright light approaching him rapidly. Initially, he thought that it was a truck and assumed he was approaching traffic. Suddenly, there was a flash and he was being held down by a group of short, squat, and ugly aliens intent on prodding him everywhere. Interestingly, the description Davis gave almost exactly matches the second mystery alien that vanished after being spotted by the aforementioned security officer in South Dakota. He doesn't recall how long he was gone for after being abducted because time seemed to pass differently. When he came back to reality, he was back in his car in Montebello with no explanation of where he was in between or how he miraculously reappeared. Far from being distraught or disturbed, he seemed pretty excited about the entire situation. He also seemed like he couldn't wait to let the world know what happened, and spent most of the podcast throwing around profanities, which suggests someone who's really had something unexplainable happen to them. Think about it. If you were abducted by aliens, you'd probably be pretty hyped and toss your filter out the window too. One of the most amazing things about some ET encounters is just how calm their victims are afterward. We always sensed something was off about those reports, but we can definitely get excited about this one. Number 2. Levelland encounter. 2 immigrant workers were traveling down a back road in Levelland, Texas, when they saw an intense blue light appear as a flash in front of them. Almost immediately, their truck stalled and the engine completely cut out. As the truck slowed to a complete stop, the men witnessed something that scared them half to death. A strange object suddenly rose up against the horizon and leveled out, aiming directly at the truck, barreling towards them at breakneck speed. One of the men, Pedro Salcedo, immediately jumped out of the truck and, terrified, attempted to hide behind some nearby bushes. His friend Joe Salas, however, was completely frozen with fear and was unable to move from the truck. He remained motionless and mesmerized as a massive object, shaped like a rocket, whizzed past mere inches over the top of their vehicle. Both men distinctly remember the intense heat that the craft gave off. It flew past the truck with enough speed that the force of the displaced air almost lifted Pedro off the ground and shook the truck violently. The object then disappeared over the horizon and didn't return. When they called the local police station, the officer on duty, one A.J. Fowler, immediately dismissed it as a prank and hung up. He didn't feel the need to investigate until another call came in minutes later that described very much the same thing. The second caller said that the object was egg-shaped and must have been around 200 feet long. Again, his car stalled when he got close to the object, which launched itself at the second car in the exact same way as the first. Over the course of the evening, 15 such calls were made, all from unrelated sources. Official sources chalk the episode up to ball lightning, but we think there's much more to it than that. Number 1. Kurt Russell, Phoenix Lights. We all know about the Phoenix Lights UFO sighting that happened back in 1997. If you don't, it was a pretty big thing at the time and was witnessed by a huge number of people, totaling in the thousands. A relatively accomplished amateur pilot was flying over the area and gave the first report of the lights when he and a passenger radioed the control tower to report the objects. Turns out that pilot was none other than movie star Kurt Russell. When he gave his report, the tower got back in touch to say that they were registering nothing on their radar and hoping to confirm that Russell wasn't mistaken. He then responded that he was gonna go ahead and assume that meant it was unidentified, before confirming that he was watching 6 objects obviously flying in a formation. The objects he encountered, confirmed to be the very same that were seen by so many others, appeared to be flying in a triangle pattern so ubiquitous of UFO sightings. It turns out his passenger in the small aircraft was Goldie Hawn's son, who Russell was flying to visit his girlfriend. UFOs aside, that's a pretty impressive way to show up for a date. After finishing his flight, Russell apparently completely forgot about the incident until decades after the fact. Celebrities, it seems, have so much going on that an actual UFO sighting that shocked thousands of unbelieving onlookers simply skipped his mind for another 2 years. His memory was jogged when he entered a room to find Goldie Hawn watching a documentary based on the event. He sat down to watch it with her, and the realization slowly dawned on him that the story was the one that he had reported. It felt eerily like something he'd experienced before, but he wasn't too sure. When he heard the pilot radio the tower, he instantly knew that it was his own voice and his memory returned. He then took a look at his logbooks from that day and was able to prove that it was, in fact, his sighting. This revelation was announced during a talk show where Russell and the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 cast were gathered to promote the film. Needless to say, everyone present was pretty shocked and impressed. And there, you have 5 real encounters people have had with extraterrestrials. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like and share it. And if you haven't already, subscribe down below to get notified every single day with new videos from Top 5's finest. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we are